Welcome on today's conversation on the future of work, where AI isn't just a buzzword, but a business driver. This is Lenovo Work Reborn, live in Orlando. Hey Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for coming by the podcast booth. You are on an episode of Lenovo Work Reborn. Have you ever heard of the concept of Work Reborn before, by any chance?
I have not, actually.
What do you think it means when you hear Work Reborn?
For me, I guess that makes me think of the way work is changing right now. I think especially, the roles aren't necessarily changing, but the way we execute them is definitely changing.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So, ultimately it comes down to that impact of AI, and the way I do my job and actually most of the people in our organization do their job has definitely changed. There's I think an increase in work output expectations and then that kind of reliance on assistance from AI to kind of boost performance and, then deliver more.
You're so right in that regard. We've been interviewing many people on this show, and we've also surveyed over 600 senior IT leaders in a report where we called it Work Reborn, and they all felt similar about where work is headed. There's a lot of positives to where work is going, but then there's also some very real risk factors as well. And especially as it relates to cybersecurity, we found from our report that CIOs are most confident in managing security risks developed in-house. But why do in-house builds feel less risky, in your opinion, than third-party AI?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because I don't necessarily agree with the statement.
Right, tell me about your perspective on that.
But I think there is a feeling of safety because we built it, if that makes sense. You say, no, we built that so we know everything that's in it. We're sure we know everything that's in it and it's going to be fine. Versus a third party one where they're saying, well, I don't know where that data came from that it was trained on. I don't know the suggestions it made. But also, I don't know where it's sending that data when I talk to it, if you're using AI in that way.
Famous last words, it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. That's exactly it.
Right.
And it often isn't, right? It needs guardrails around that to kind of really
What often happens, what are some common things that go wrong if not implemented properly in an organization?
I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, you get those hallucinations out of AI. And I think, people build it in-house and they don't necessarily understand everything that they need to do to test those. It's still a new discipline, and testing AI models and, AI agents, whether it's using an LLM or whether it's using inference, both of those things come with risks. And the testing is very different from, the testing that you have in-house. I know from testing our own AI stuff, you can give it the same question twice and you'll get a different answer.
And also, two different people can ask the same question and get a different answer, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so kind of learning how to test those internal models is just as important as testing those external. Interestingly, though, not all, but a lot of those external companies, because they do nothing but build AI solutions often, they are actually better at testing them than the internal teams are.
Another reported concern in the report was data protection. It ranked as the most critical capability for AI security. Where are you focusing investments to strengthen this?
Multiple ways. So I'm gonna cover this in two areas.
Yes.
So there's kind of what we're doing internally to have our own governance and oversight in the way we use AI internally, but also how we're building our own products and how we're making sure that we're meeting those same requirements for everybody else that we might give those products to. So I think internally we've built quite strong governance teams. So we actually have a specialized AI team that helps us understand which models we can use, what we can't use, what the rules are. There's quite an extensive internal training program to make sure that, everybody who works at Harness understands their responsibilities in terms of using and consuming AI and the data that they can share and they can't share. I think that's quite important, and I think that should be common across the industry at this point. And if it isn't, you should be on a road to that. And I think on the other side, it's really making sure that you can, if you're building AI models that, either you're going to consume internally or you're going to, pass on to your own customers, I think you have to make sure that you've considered the privacy, where that data goes, how segmented it is. I know for us, we're very keen to say, there's the general stuff, and then there's the stuff that's specific to you. And the stuff that's specific to you, what we would essentially call their context model, their
Right.
software engineering context model. That is yours and nobody else can see that. It's isolated, it's your data, and it's context just for when you use that AI. And I think you need to have that separation between like the general and the specific and the context that you give. And you need to be able to prove that that's private.
Just to kind of wrap up the conversation on a fun note, we have a partnership with FIFA, and I think there's so many parallels to what we've been discussing now to sports, right?
Yeah.
Which is having a plan, being resilient, being adaptable, scaling under pressure. What can leaders or should leaders keep in mind that is transferable or parallel to that mindset as it relates to this new era of work?
Specifically, if I'm picking sports, I'm a huge F1 fan.
Yes.
And in F1, one of the things that I love is that iterative change of the cars that they make all the time. Oh, they've made a slight tweak here, they've made a tweak here. But equally, that ability to say, this doesn't work, I'm just throwing that thing away and I'm either going back to what I had or I'm trying something new. And I think that not having the fear to say, this isn't working, let's try something different, is actually something you need to be able to do. You need to have that constant flexibility and, the leadership to be able to drive those changes and say, hey, this isn't working, let's do something else. Or this is working, how do we make it better? What's the next iteration? What's the next step?
Well, Martin, thank you so much for sharing your insights and being the one of many 600 leaders that we have spoken to about how we're bringing new life to the modern workplace. Your thoughts are valuable, and we really appreciate your time today. If anyone is interested in learning more about the Work Reborn report, make sure you download it via the link in the description below if you're listening. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, there will be a QR code over here. Make sure you scan the screen and download to get your copy. We appreciate you so much, Martin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us live in Orlando for this amazing episode of Work Reborn. I've been your host, Rita Risha, and it's been a pleasure to bring you insightful conversations from around the world, especially at this event, on how we are bringing new life to the modern workplace. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to stay tuned on more ways that we are doing just that, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe our channel, and download a copy of the Work Reborn report today.
Lenovo.